Hello Internet! The video you're about to watch is the penultimate episode in my MCU movies rank from least best to best series. If you missed either of the first three videos, I will have links to them in the description down below. Please make sure to give them a watch before go ahead and watching this one. In this video, I will be discussing movies numbers 10 through 6 on my MCU movie ranking list. We're getting into the heavy hitters in this one. As always, this video may contain light spoilers for the movies that I'm going to discuss, so let's get into the countdown. Just sneaking into my top 10 MCU movies is Iron Man, the original Iron Man. This movie used to be in my top 5 solely because its success is what basically allowed the MCU to exist. But when I allowed myself to examine this movie purely from just like a filmmaking perspective, it's not a top 5 film for me. Sure, Robert Downey Jr. was basically born to play Tony Stark. And yes, this movie has better CGI than Black Panther, despite being released 10 years earlier. And of course, there are moments in Iron Man that, if you have watched through the entire MCU, will bring a tear to your eye upon watching this movie. But as was the case with Captain America, which I talked about in a previous video, the emotional highs and lows I feel while watching this movie do not come close to comparing to those I feel while watching the top 9 movies on my list. So that is why Iron Man finds itself firmly planted at number 10 on my list. Moving on to the number 9 spot, and we have Guardians of the Galaxy. This is one of the MCU movies I've seen more times than any other normal person should, so I'm pretty confident with my rankings. My only issue with this movie, and it is a very minor issue, is that as an origin movie, like as an origin story, a lot of the movie has to take a lot of time spending time bringing together our characters as a team, and we really only get to see the Guardians in action for about 30 minutes near the end of the movie, although it is pretty awesome. With that being said, there are certain emotional beats in this movie that get me every time. Groot sacrificing himself and saying, "We are Groot." There's a moment where there's a pink woman and a little girl that Rocket saves in the final battle, and that ends up being Daenerys and Day's wife and daughter. That reveal is pretty touching to me. And the moment when Peter's holding the Power Stone kind of near the end, and all the other Guardians are touching him, and the Guardians theme is playing in the background, that scene gives me chills every time. This movie definitely surprised a lot of people, myself included, when it was released, because it was one of Marvel's lesser-known properties. But it's become a household name. Marvel nailed it, which is why I have it this high on my list. Number 8 on my list is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. The only slightly negative thing I have to say about this movie is that if you watched any of the trailers for this movie, or if you even read or were familiar with the comics, it was pretty obvious who the Winter Soldier is going to be, but that's it. The hand-to-hand combat in this movie is brilliant. It's choreographed brilliantly. Steve Rogers, Captain America, grows a lot as a character and goes from being unapologetically patriotic to someone who's consistently questioning the motives of the people he works for. As has been the case with other movies on my list, this movie has moments that are kind of elevated as they are brought full circle in later MCU movies. So they maybe didn't mean a whole lot in this one, but as you watch later movies and you watch this one again, they mean more. I'm thinking of a certain elevator scene and the line "on your left," just to name a few of those moments. This movie is great. But is it the best Captain America movie? I don't think so, because number 7 on my list is Civil War, Captain America: Civil War. Now, this movie is basically an Avengers movie, just not in title. Everyone is in this one. I have zero issues with this movie. The main villain, Zemo, might not be overtly intimidating, but, I mean, he does get his job done. Like, he accomplishes his goal by the end of the movie. The new characters, such as Black Panther and Spider-Man, get introduced in this film, while much of the focus is still kept on the characters we have come to know and love in the movies prior to this. And that is the great strength of this movie. We know we love Captain America. We know we love Iron Man. We want to believe that both of them are right in this conflict, but yet we can't, because we have to examine our values. And that's what this movie does. It makes us think upon what are we willing to do for what is right, even if other people that we care and trust might not agree with us. Also featured in this movie is one of the greatest bicep shots ever put to film. So there's a scene in this movie where Captain America is trying to prevent Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, from escaping in a helicopter. And so, as he does, he grabs the helicopter with his bare hand and is basically just like flexing in front of the camera for a shot as he attempts to prevent the helicopter from taking off. And I remember after watching this movie, that was the first thing my friend and I talked about. We were like, "Dude, did you see Chris Evans' bicep in that one scene?" So yes, it's noticeable, but it's great. Anyways, sorry, let's move on with the countdown. With this next film, we enter the top 6 on my list. Now, all of these top 6 films I consider to be limitlessly rewatchable. I could put on any of these next 6 films, regardless of my mood, and watch them from start to finish, no problem. And the first of these 6 films is Doctor Strange. Now, back in March, I was watching TV and just happened to notice that Doctor Strange was on. I switched over to it and found it was quite more enjoyable than I had remembered. And watching that movie is what inspired me to decide to watch through the whole MCU from start to finish. And when I had finished watching Doctor Strange during that watch through, I knew for sure this is a top tier Marvel movie. The special effects in this movie are probably the best and most unique in the entire MCU. The casting choices from Benedict Cumberbatch to Tilda Swinton to Benedict Wong to Rachel McAdams, everyone delivers almost flawless performances. The comedy in this movie is a bit drier than it is in most other MCU movies, but that's the type of humor that I like, so it worked for me. The only slight downside to this movie is the pretty forgettable antagonist, Caecilius. He's kind of useless in this one. Dormammu is also in this one, but I'm pretty sure he's only in it momentarily because he's going to be saved, hopefully, for a future MCU movie where he'll be a little bit more intimidating. Most of the origin stories I have ranked in this list, I have ranked pretty low. So it does kind of even surprise me that Doctor Strange is so high on the list. But the introduction of Doctor Strange into the MCU was a one well-executed origin story. And there you have it. My 10th through 6th favorite MCU movies. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And be sure to check back soon for the final episode of my MCU movies ranked from least best to best series, which includes, in the next video, not only my favorite Marvel movies, but some of my favorite movies of all time. Should be a good one. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.